Welcome back to Seriously Suzanne. I am your host, Jake Ghost. We're coming at you with an audio-only recording today. I'm here with my mom in her office, Suzanne Ghost. She's the owner and founder of Flip Flop Spanish. Today we're going to be talking about homeschooling from the beginning. So, let's say you just had a baby, you want to start homeschooling. What do we want to do, Mom?
All right, so that's what I did, right? I had a baby, stayed at home, and then met homeschoolers and turned into a homeschooler when he was 9 months old. And then I was really worried, like, how am I going to do this? Because I taught 7th grade and high school, 7th grade and up. And so not all of them came to me reading, which is sad to say, but I will tell you the truth. Not all of them, but most of them came to me already reading. So my first thought was, I don't know how to teach this kid to read. I don't even remember how I learned to read. So that's the scariest part. But we'll cover that in a little bit. The first part is to recognize that homeschooling is just an extension of parenting. So at the beginning, you do not need to buy curriculum. You don't need to tell the school district, hi, I plan to homeschool in 5 years. You don't have to say on Facebook, I need homeschool material for my 3-year-old. I'm really sorry if some of y'all have already done that. I apologize for making fun of you. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm just trying to let you know that you do not need curriculum for kids that are younger than 5 years old. They're learning just naturally.
Okay, great. Got it. So that's good. You don't have to be super strict with your kid as soon as they come out of the womb. Got it. All right, so at what age did you start trying, I know with Mitch, you were, trying to get him to say, complex words like octagon and stuff like that when he was, 1?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm allowed to make fun of that because that was me. Okay, so now there's the disclaimer. Yes, he was 10 months old. He was pulling up on things, and, we call it cruising, where you're holding onto things and walking around. He wasn't walking, but he was, moving around. And I totally had shape flashcards. And I sat him up in his high chair, and I would hold a shape up, square, triangle, circle. And the octagon, he did not enunciate. And so I would say octagon, he'd go, yang, yang, yang. And then one time we were in the car, and he looked out the window and saw a stop sign, and he said, yang, yang, yang. And I, instead of being really impressed, I was like, Mitch, enunciate, son. So that poor kid. So when everybody looks at him and says, why is he so twitchy? No, I'm just joking. He's great. He's fine at 23. But don't be like me. Don't have flashcards for somebody before they start walking. Just enjoy life. So what do you want to do? You want to just include them with you in your everyday things. Don't say, go watch a TV show. Say, help me fold the washcloths. Help me, just be with me. And so really, until age 4 or so, you're just reading a lot to them. Go to the library, check out books, take them to the park. Don't keep them inside too much, and don't keep them outside too much. Just engage them with like a normal human. You were already doing this. You've already taught them how to eat. You've taught them how to get dressed. You've taught them how to go to the potty, and you're just doing more of that.
Okay, gotcha. Pretty cool. So, yeah, what age did you start kind of trying to actually teach them, instead of just doing basic parent stuff?
So Mitch, as a typical firstborn, he definitely he kind of filled that typical firstborn thing and wanted to learn to read. So you just go, sure, let's go figure this out. And so I was very blessed by having all these parents of high schoolers hanging around me because I was teaching their kids high school Spanish. And so I had a built-in resource of parents that were 15 years older than me. And so I just asked them, hey, what did you do to teach your kid to read? And we used 100 Easy Lessons. Do you remember that book?
Right, I remember it.
And you did not like it?
No, that was terrible.
Do you remember what you got at the end of the book?
I think it was $5?
Yes, we taped a $5 bill in the back of the book. So folks, if you're wondering, you have a reluctant reader that does not want to sit still and do these lessons. And I should have waited. I didn't know at that point that, you were 6 or 7, maybe 5. I don't remember. But it was too early for you because Mitch was such an early, I want to do all the things. I love workbooks. I love reading. I love all the pencils and papers. And you were a more regular kid and you didn't like that stuff. But I didn't know.
I also had a learning disability, so
right.
I played it. It was just so frustrating because I couldn't get it. I wanted to get it.
Yeah.
I put so much effort into getting it. That was one of my earliest memories, just being incredibly frustrated at learning because my brain just wouldn't let me do it.
Right. And I didn't understand what was going on because you're my second kid, and my first kid learned to read very, very easily, psychotically easily. And it wasn't fair, but that was my only comparison because I wasn't trained to teach kids to read. And so, praise the Lord, one of my mentors was like, Suzanne, Jake is really, really smart. He knows his phonics, and he can't read. That means there's something else going on. And so we finally got you tested, and I just wish we had done that much earlier. And then we did some therapy, and you jumped 4 reading levels in like 6 months' time without reading lessons. So all that's to say, if your child is smart, and you know, don't kid yourself, you know one way or the other if your child is a smarter one or not. And either way, it doesn't make them worse, it just makes them, they're just not as quick-witted. But if you have a smart child that knows his phonics, and they're having trouble reading, you might want to go get them tested for some sort of visual processing disorder. If they are reading well and they're, you just sit down, you give it 5 or 6 minutes. As soon as the kid says, can we please be done? The answer is yes. So until age 8 is when I say you need to start having some sort of schedule. At 9:30 a.m., we're going to sit down for a little bit and we're going to have school time so that when they're 9, 10, 11, it's not like this huge shock to their system. But because our firstborn kid was so interested in school time, it was very easy for us. And so we just had the trickle down of Mitch wants to do his schoolwork, so Jake would naturally want to come and sit next to him, and then Annagil and Audie and Liesel would come along, and we just kind of did group work. But before age 8, if you got a firstborn kid that's not like my firstborn, and he's more like a secondborn, and he doesn't want to sit down, I say, don't do it. Like, just let him read other ways and learn other things until he's 8 or 9, because the last thing you want is a burnt out second grader. That's sad.
What I liked the most was when we would listen to books in that little library room that we had. That was pretty cool. I thought that was because I got to hear a story without having the frustration of reading, and I just, my brain was working so much faster than I feel like what I could take in. Like, I couldn't take in the knowledge fast enough just because of the visual processing disorder. So I think, and parents don't really do that anymore for kids. I don't think, I remember y'all reading to us, and I feel like anytime a kid's bored, they just hand them an iPad. And that's not really, you're not using your imagination to build the story. Gollum, I remember Dad reading The Hobbit to us. That was the scariest thing ever, you do voices and everything, so my imagination was going crazy, and now kids have no imagination, some kids, I remember hearing a story about this guy, he was talking to his niece or whatever, and she was bored, and he's like, well, use your imagination. She thought it was an app on a phone.
Oh my god.
Isn't that insane?
This
little
sad.
6-year-old doesn't even know what imagination is, because she has had zero chance to build it.
Yeah, we had some little kids over at our house the other day. You weren't here, and I showed them a framed picture of when we went to Spain, and I pulled it down, and I was like, oh yeah, this is actually in Spain. And there's a little 3-year-old, 2.5-year-old, I think she's 3, anyhow, and she tried to swipe the frame. I was like, oh wow. And I looked up at the mom, and the mom's like, oh my gosh. And so it's a real wake-up call for her, going, wow, these kids need real life experiences. Everything's on a screen. They expect everything to act like a screen. So yes, books, no screens. You want everything on that you can touch and feel. You can flip back to see the pictures. Picture books. Your lap is the best place for a kid to learn. So yeah, I'm glad you. Yeah, we read to y'all all the time. Dad, especially with The Hobbit, and then we did. I don't know if you remember being on the back porch, and we did all the books in the Chronicles of Narnia.
Right. Yeah, and then Call of the Wild.
Yeah.
And we figured out, the call to it. I think that book's so corny because the call to adventure is just a writer's term, and then there was literally a voice that was the call to adventure. I was like, later I was like, that's so corny. You're just using a writer's name to move your story forward in the most blatant way possible.
Right. Yeah. It's a classic. So.
Yeah. No, I get it. I was just like. Well, since I'm into storytelling now with, videos and all that,
that's right.
You need a call to adventure. I was like, oh, well, that's what that was. That's so blatant in my face.
Yeah, very, very, not real artistic or literary or whatever. Yeah. But that's a good point. So So reading to them helps them to want to read.
Right.
And so that's a huge part. If your child doesn't want to read, you kind of need to give them a reason to want to. And honestly, that's it. Once your child learns to read, the rest is gravy. If they love learning, which they should because it's super interesting, right? They're curious, they want to know stuff. And so they love learning. You value learning, which so they need to see that you value it. You think this is important. You're not saying, go do this, I'm busy with something more important. Because they're going to want to do whatever's more important.
Right.
They don't want to go do something that you don't find valuable.
Right.
So if you value learning and they know how to read, then the rest is gravy. Because my kids, I didn't teach them everything, but they know how to go find it out now.
Right.
And y'all all value learning.
Right. Anything I saw an adult doing, I wanted to be a part of. I remember that for sure. Because I knew that I was going to be an adult one day, and I just couldn't wait to get there. Now that I'm here, it kind of sucks. But, but when I was a kid, you know, I would go hang out with the general and
Yes.
all of y'all. And if I didn't see y'all do those things or like anything Dad was doing, I wanted to be a part of, going out and working on a car, I'd just sit there and watch him. Because I knew that was important. So yeah, if I saw people who weren't reading or adults who just wanted to watch TV or whatever, you know, you're definitely leading by example all the time when you don't even realize it. You know, I think a lot of people think, well, I'm going to be a teacher now.
Right.
And then I'm going to go teach my kids. And then they take off that hat, but they're still teaching, you know. You're still an example.
You're always sending a message. And I think that's really helpful that you said all that to brand new homeschoolers that can hear this 21-year-old sit here and say, I've never been in a public school setting one time in my life. I've never been enrolled in a private school.
Right.
We took classes, you know, you're in classes, but once a week, and you played on the football team, and you've done all these things, and you valued learning around you. You didn't look at it as, oh, I'm sitting in a desk in a cold room with fluorescent lights, and now I have to pee. That means it's time to learn. Because that's what I remember about public school, is always feeling like I had to go to the bathroom. Because I was scared that I might have to go, and I wouldn't be allowed to go. And so that was in the forefront of my mind most of my school years, until high school, whenever they are a little bit more free with potty passes. But still, if you think about it, isn't that bizarre?
It's like you're a child slave.
You have to
know?
regulate your bodily functions.
It's insane. I mean, I don't understand why you would want, especially now. I mean, with the political... I mean, teachers don't have to tell their kids... I don't know if we want to talk about this or
Yeah,
not.
let's let it go. Let's see.
But, so, like, if your child, let's say a 12-year-old kid, thinks she wants to be a boy now, and she's trying to transition, the school will hide that information from the parents.
Right.
So that way the kid can just get farther and farther away from the truth. And, like, these kids have no idea what they're doing.
No, they're scared. They're little. They don't know.
Yeah, they're forcing it on these kids, you know? Like, I never thought that whenever I was a kid. You know, I dressed up in, like a dress with my sister just because I thought, you know, I wanted to have fun or whatever when I was a little tiny kid. And if my parents were like, oh, he wants to be a chick. Let's, you know, let's do some irreversible surgery. Like, that's insane.
It is. I mean, the good news is that that's not true in every state. It is true in a couple of states, and so parents, you know, if you know, become involved in your politics, look around, because the things that the school is allowing affects parental rights whether or not you're in the school. So here in Texas, we're very blessed to have the Texas Homeschool Coalition that protects parental rights. Right. And if you're concerned about it, look into it. What do the bills say? What does the school district say? What does your area say? Look at those local politics and be aware of it. But as you're starting up with homeschooling, the cool thing is you don't really have to worry right now. You just continue to, let them grow up, give them beautiful things in front of them to learn about, take them to interesting places, and don't tolerate poor behavior. That's why homeschoolers are so well behaved, is because they're around their parents all the time. Right. Not all the time, but so much so that we're not going to tolerate somebody that's super talkative or somebody that interrupts or somebody that's rude. And so that's why students that are homeschooled are so polite. That's it. It's not because, oh, we're such great parents. It's that we don't want to put up with that junk.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I remember when we would go out to restaurants or whatever, like almost every time some old couple or somebody would come by and buy us, we went to Jose's and they got us sopapillas. And she just was like, really impressed with us, I guess, and I was so confused because I was like, why is this random lady I've never met buying us food?
Yeah.
And that happened a whole lot.
A whole lot.
You know, now that I'm older and I'm going to restaurants myself and I'm seeing all these horrible children, you know, ruining my dinner experience,
Yes.
I was like, oh, I was better.
Yes.
And so that's why those things happen. So
well, because we would walk in with 5 little kids.
Right.
And people would hold their breath like, oh, no. Yeah,
Right.
This is going to be a terrible experience.
Right.
But instead, everybody's politely eating their food, cutting their own meat, or, you know, asking, like one of us would come up and go cut the meat, or you or Mitch would lean over and cut food for Lisa or Audie. And so they saw these 5 little kids, and they're just so impressed, and they would say, can I please buy your children some ice cream or sopapillas or whatever? And it happened at a lot of restaurants.
Right.
And, yeah, and now you know why.
Right.
Because
yeah,
it's not common. Or they just throw an iPad at them, right?
Right.
So if a kid's behaved, quote unquote, it's just because they're not
distracted.
Yeah, they're distracted.
Yeah.
They're entertained.
Right.
They got their headphones on and their screen. They don't even have to interact with the world around them.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of good things that are very intangible and naturally come from the homeschool lifestyle. And that's another thing I would say. I think I can probably finish with that. Is homeschooling is simply a lifestyle, and you're just feeding that lifestyle. Public schooling is a lifestyle, and you have to be on their schedule, and you have to do the things they ask you to do. And it's just, kind of choose your poison. Homeschooling's hard. Getting your kid up and ready for public school is hard. Oh, I did want to say one more thing. When you do start your schedule, I highly recommend only doing 4 days a week when you decide to start setting it down, because that way Friday is always empty, ready for field trips, ready for outings. If you need to go get new shoes that day, it's not like, oh no, when do we do it? You do it on Friday. If we skipped something, like if we didn't get to math like on a Tuesday, I would circle it, and then we do that on Friday first. We got whatever it was that we skipped, and then we got to go on with our weekend. So almost every weekend felt like a 3-day weekend. And then I asked my mentor, Julie, okay, when does that stop? Like, when do I do 5 days a week? And she said, you'll know. And that scared the tar out of me. I was like, oh no, how will I know? And I don't even remember when Fridays disappeared. But it did. It was just very natural, like, I think probably middle school, upper middle school.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, this is bullcrap.
I used to have free Fridays.
Yeah.
What happened?
I'm a slave.
There was no voting. There was no ballot.
Right, yeah. Felt totally betrayed by my parents. This is slavery. And
Do
then
you
would,
remember? Sorry.
And then you were like, well, some kids have to go on a bus at 6 a.m, and then they stay there till 4 o'clock. I was like, geez, okay, I got this pretty good.
Right. Yeah, y'all did. And I did get y'all up a couple of times to see the bus go by, because you didn't understand how good you had it. Do you remember when you found out that public school kids get the summer off? Yeah,
that was annoying. And then we finally did it one year, and then you stopped. You never did it again, and it was like, ugh.
Because everybody lost so much information.
Right? Yeah, I didn't remember anything, but
right.
I still really enjoyed it.
Yes, and that's why we wanted to do it. We wanted to say, okay, let's try it. Maybe I'm being ridiculous. Maybe they can completely stop all schooling for a summer and it won't have a negative detriment. But getting y'all back into the system and the schedule, I don't honestly know that we ever really... Well, you did. You were good. But Audie and Lisa are kind of lazy right now. Oh, cut that part out.
No, that's okay. They'll be fine. They don't even listen to the podcast.
Okay. Well, we're going to whip them into shape next week. We'll have a week before we start school officially. And they've been doing some stuff, but it wasn't like y'all were when you were here. So you start relaxing. So I would say one more thing is start out strict, because you do get more mellow.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at them and I was like, dude, this is a total cakewalk from what I remember. The last two I knew this would happen.
Right.
But now I'm seeing it come to fruition, and it's like, I guess good for you, but I totally now I know how Mitch feels, I guess. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, you had 3 kids under you that you had to help with.
Right.
And Audie and Lisa, they don't have to help with each other, and they don't have to have anybody underneath them to help. Right. So they're just schooling by themselves. Right.
Well, this is a good spot to wrap up. It's now 3:35, and we've been podcasting for 21 minutes. So thank you for listening. Hopefully we'll have video back up soon. We just had a quick little podcast today. So if you like the video, please comment some new topics that we want to discuss. If you have any questions yourself, You can DM us on Instagram, Flip Flop Learning, right?
Flip Flop Spanish.
Flip Flop Spanish. I do that every time. Sorry. FlipFlopSpanish.com, our website, Flip Flop Spanish, our handle on Instagram, and I think everything else as well. So like the video, subscribe, and we'll catch you again next week.